me. Go ahead. How about a nice round of applause for Simon?
Thank you, Reg.
I'm very loud now. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Simon Dudley. I'm Life Sciences video evangelist. And yes, it's the most stupid title in the world. I wanted Grand Poobah, but HR thought it sounded rude. They know nothing about opera. Okay, and as you may have guessed, I'm based in Austin, Texas. I have a hat and everything. So I wanted to talk today about a couple of things. I wanted to talk about how Life Sciences is revolutionizing the video conferencing market. But first I wanted to talk about why video conferencing in the first place. The United States represents 4.5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's economy. Does anyone know why? It isn't manifest destiny. The US used to be a third of the world's economy, and if you really want to box hard, then the UK, Britain, was 1.5% of the world's population and half the world's economy in 1851. And it's because both of those economies adopted new technology before everybody else did. Britain, of course, in 1850 had the height of the Industrial Revolution. It was ahead of everyone else. And now the United States is at the forefront of adopting new technology. The statistic at the bottom there, the average American worker is 6 times more effective than people in the rest of the world. That is hard to believe if you go to almost any corporate office, but it is apparently true. So ultimately, time is more important than money for all of us. Do you remember those jokes in the 1980s about how much money had to be on the floor for Bill Gates to have it worth him picking up? Point is though, Bill Gates still only has 24 hours in a day, and that's a problem for all of us. You see, ultimately, all of us have bosses who want us to do more next year. I've been in sales now for 27 years, and they always wanted me to work harder next year. Working harder is a fool's errand. You're not going to do more next year than you are this year if your only answer is do more work. So planes, trains and automobiles are fine technologies, but they're basically 19th or 20th century solutions to business problems. And if we in the West, in America specifically, are going to stay ahead of the emerging markets, we need to do something more effective than use this technology. By the way, just to give you a sense of how the world's changed in the last 20 years, if you want to be one of the global 1%, you know the folks down at Wall Street who are shouting about we're the 99%, they almost certainly are not. If you want to be in the global 1%, you have to earn $34,000 a year. If you want to be in the global 0.1%, you have to earn $70,000 a year. It's not a lot, is it? And the point with that is that all these technologies, these Southwest Airlines flights, and I like Southwest Airlines, they actually appear to want my business rather than want me dead, unlike United and American. Because wouldn't their airline work so much better if none of the actual customers were there? Anyway, those airlines are becoming available to millions more people. And so you now have millions more people who are competing with you for everything you do. And the idea of outworking them, it doesn't, one, sound very appealing, or two, very likely. And I've noticed that cars have not got faster. My car at 60 miles an hour is no faster than your car at 60 miles an hour, and you can't go faster than that anyway. The only real fast road there is in this whole state is the ring road of Austin, and no one's on that. And trains are the big long things in the middle, but we're in the US, so best I say nothing more about them. So, at any one point, there are 7,000 aircraft in the air above the United States. 7,000. And most of us have bosses who say, I want you to work 10% harder next year or produce 10% more. Well, we're not going to keep putting another 10% more aircraft in the air. And in fact, although we're adding capacity all the time, it's mainly in those places that are now competing with the United States. That would be China, that would be South America as examples. And by the way, thinking about China, people go on all the time about the Chinese economy will be bigger than America's soon. Well, perhaps in overall terms, but their productivity is terrible compared to the United States. So I've come up with a solution. This is the Hyperloop. And this is a sort of technology that when I was a kid, that is, I admit, rather a long time ago now, but when I was a kid, I thought people would be doing this. Out of interest, just a quick show of hands, who knows what the Hyperloop is? Anyone? Oh, excellent, I've actually got some folks who know. So for those of you who don't, it's a 10-foot diameter steel pipe that they basically suck all the air out of, and you put a linear motor 28-seat car down the middle of it, and you can whiz along at 1,000 miles an hour. In fact, the theoretical maximum, for reasons I don't remember, is about Mach 2, so about 1,300 miles an hour. And Elon Musk, our friend from SpaceX and Tesla, wants to put these things between San Francisco and LA. And I, for one, would love to go on it. And many people think that this is our solution, this is how we're going to get to be more efficient in the future. And I've got news for you. One, they want to build it in California, which means it will never be built. And secondly, this was actually invented conceptually by a British engineer in 1911. So how long are we going to wait for these new technologies? This stuff's not coming in our lifetimes, folks. And things like the Big Dig. I was in Boston last week. The Big Dig. 20 years ripping the whole city apart, and now it's basically back to how it was 20 years ago. But you can get to the airport fast. Or Toronto. They're digging that city up for 25 years to lower the commute time from 82 minutes to 60 minutes. I won't ask how many people care what the commute time in Toronto is in 25 years from now, but I sure as heck wouldn't want to be one of the people that has to live through it. So those solutions really don't work. We're going to have to think differently. So when we started Life Size, I got the second best job in the world. My job was to go around and ask customers what they actually wanted to buy. Otherwise, our engineers, being brilliant engineers, would build the thing that they thought was the coolest. And we would end up with the world's best coat hanger cigar lighter. It would be technically brilliant, but no one in his right mind would want to buy it. So I got this fantastic job of asking customers what they wanted. And this statement came out after meeting a very large financial institution with about 500 video conferencing systems. This was in the pre-high definition days. And the client said to me when I said to him, "What do you think of video conferencing?" And he looked at me and went, "It's a useful tool and we use it extensively." I said, "What do you really think of video conferencing?" He said, "It's rubbish and everybody hates it." Now this man had spent about $4 million on video conferencing in less than 2 years previously. So I said to him, because I was a little worried, we'd borrowed a lot of money to start the company, so I could barely go back to the office and say, "Video conferencing is a bad and let's stop." But he said the following. He said, "If the meeting matters, I will come and see you. If the meeting doesn't matter, I'll get you on the phone or I'll send you an email. It's how everybody does business." Trouble is, it still is. You've all come here, and I'm sure you came to see us. It wasn't the golf, or the hotel, or the fabulous food, or the, well, you're right, it was all of those things as well. But the meeting mattered to you enough that you came. It mattered enough for me that I came from Austin. I couldn't do this over the phone. So what do we need to do with video conferencing is if we're going to break that statement, which I think is an absolute truism, it's absolutely accurate, is the only way you can make video conferencing or any technology break into that world is to make it so indivisible from being there that people forget that they're not there. So video conferencing needs to be as good as looking through a window to another place. If the solutions that you put in, and I'm not suggesting we're the only people who can do that, by the way, I am being as magnanimous as someone who gets paid by a particular manufacturer can be, but realistically, whatever solutions you look at in video communications, it has to be good enough that people forget about the technology. As Arthur C. Clarke said, a sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. You see, our industry, the video conferencing industry, has a very nasty habit. If we were the car industry, we would call everything with 4 wheels on it a 4-wheel personal transportation device. And of course all of those are, but I know which one I would use if I'm going back to Austin on Wednesday. I am not using a skateboard. Well, we'll just leave it at that. I'm a 46-year-old, not very healthy man. I'm not using a skateboard, period. But people in our industry will call everything from a 1-inch square image of 5 frames a second or a $500,000 telepresence room, and they call it all video conferencing. So when you're looking at the technology, be aware of that and confirm that not all things are the same. So a bit of education, because that's what I'm here for, I hope. There are basically 4 parts to the video conferencing industry or associated markets as there is today. There is, in the blue corner, the traditional video conferencing infrastructure. Now that means customer says or a user says, I want video conferencing, and you as a CIO go, okay, well we'll look into it. And you realize that audio conferencing is basically free, web conferencing is $39 a month, video conferencing is $200,000 to get in the game. And then you realise that you need to have a PhD in it to buy it, because the salesman needed a degree in it to sell it to you, and we all know it, you need more skills to buy than you do to sell. After all, after the salesman's run away, you've got to live with it. And that market is fine, and it still exists, and it's a multi-billion-dollar market. But the problem with that market is it's very hard to get into. There's a high barrier to entry. You've got to have a bunch of skill sets. You're probably going to end up with a video conferencing manager, and so many CIOs don't want a video conferencing manager, they want something else. The next would be web conferencing. I do a lot of web conferencing. I do a lot of web conferencing to tell people how good video conferencing is. And if that isn't weird, I don't know what is. But the reason I do that is because web conferencing is excellent for dissemination of information. So if I'm in the HR department and you will work for me, and let's just think about that for a moment. And I was going through the latest trends in, I don't know, sexual harassment in the office. Trends is possibly not the right turn of phrase there, but anyway, moving on. Proclivities is another great word. Anyway, if I'm doing that, and I have to confirm that you listened to me, and I have to confirm that you understood what I was saying, then that's great. And that's a perfect application for web conferencing. I do a web conference every month. Typically between 1,000 and 1,200 people turn up, and they listen to me and others talk and do stuff, talk about video conferencing. But what we don't do is an interactive communication. So web conferencing, the things like Citrix or GoToMeeting or WebEx, for example, they're excellent products. Again, a multi-billion-dollar market, but different from what the true video conferencing market is, because it is not interactive. True video communications is about human connections, and it's about relatively smaller groups. Because what you wouldn't want is, and I'm recording this, so for the 800 people in this room, then I'm not going to want to set up a round table and have everyone talk to everyone else. I want to have one person, preferably me, talking at the front to a larger group. Then there's the meeting in the cloud services. Think of these like your MCI calling card. You have a phone number and you have a 1-800 number, and you dial into a meeting room environment. Those exist for video conferencing and they're pretty good, but they don't work the way that people work. There's a problem with that technology. And then there's the last type of free video conferencing solutions, which is skateboards. And the problem with that market, although useful and powerful, it helps at barbecues when people say, what do you do? And we go, we do kind of, you know, that free video conferencing stuff you use. It's like that on steroids. It's useful for me, it helps me out at a barbecue, but it's bad in the sense that people try a skateboard for a while and go, oh, skateboard's not for me. When they don't realise that the difference between a skateboard and a Mercedes is very, very different. And the experience is an utterly different one. So Life Science isn't living in a bubble, right? We know that there's lots of other products out there that do all sorts of clever things. And we've noticed that products like Salesforce, Box, RingCentral, NetSuite, and these other applications now deliver business applications to a web browser. And so the user simply gets on with the technology without having to become a world-class expert in it. We thought, that's a good idea, why don't we copy that? But there was another element to the same point. there was a sense of a connected device. So a connected device is one that marries a browser-based or an internet application along with a physical piece of hardware that you use. This is sort of the edge of the Internet of Things. So for example, let's do a quick show of hands. Who here has a Fitbit? Okay, well, great. A few. MES thermostat. Yeah, a lot of thermostats talked about. $300, I'm still struggling at $300 for a thermostat, but they're still lovely. Xbox? Anyone got an Xbox? Come on, all right, have your kids got an Xbox? Yeah, all right, there you go, you've got an Xbox then. Okay. And things like Roku. Now what all these products do is they link a device with a service out the back, and it's seamless to the user. And we thought that's a really good idea, and we're going to steal that idea, and we're going to do that in video conferencing. So we knew when we started Lifesize there were two problems to fix. There was the quality of experience had to be good enough that people forgot that they were using the technology. Every single thing that worked to stop that being a pure look through a window experience damaged the experience and therefore sort of broke the spell, as it were. It wasn't magical anymore. Then the next thing we had to do was fix simplicity. Now we tried, honestly we tried. I was one of the original teams that started at Lifesize, and we tried very hard, but most of the things that would allow us to do that didn't exist 11 years ago. There were not the IBM data centers or the Amazon data centers. There was not very inexpensive, high-quality bandwidth. There was not x86-based servers that we could put VMware and Hyper-V on. But there is now, and it's allowed us to change the way that people interact with the technology. So what we've done, we've allowed people to use video conferencing wherever they are, and the hardware infrastructure goes away from being hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of boxes in your basement and goes to a cloud offering you buy on a yearly subscription basis, and it allows you to have teleworkers or audio participants or mobile workers and extended teams. Now what it also allows us to do, and we think this really changes the game in video conferencing, is that it gives you a sense of first mover advantage. Now what I mean by that is this. Traditionally, video conferencing was a technology that meant that if you bought it, and you bought it before I did, you paid more for it and you had less people to ring. And so it was a little bit like a swimming pool where everyone stood around the edge. No one got in because nobody else had it. But now, because of the way we work with guest accounts, and that means, for example, that each of your users can log into a room solution, so think of that as a device that fits in meeting rooms and connects seamlessly with the technology, or works on a browser-based video conferencing system like WebRTC, or works as an application on their iPhone, their iPad, their PC, their Mac. They can invite people to the conference. And in fact, they can each invite 24 people as invites, which cost them nothing to do, and each one of those people can participate with you in a call. Now that's beautiful because suddenly you now have the technology that you can get involved not only with your own workers but also with your supply chain, and it's cost them nothing to get involved, and you now have the opportunity to interact with those people seamlessly. So marketing always makes me put a slide up. We're a big company. We're part of Logitech now and have been for 4 years. We've been in over 100 countries. I can't name them all, but they're there. We're all over the world, and in fact half of our business comes from outside the US already, because those guys understand the power of video communications and are using it. Not that I'm trying to scare you, but productivity is something a lot of people understand. And of course we've got lots and lots of customers. We have people, for example, who use Lifesize Video to do sign language lessons for kids in rural Nebraska. We have people doing psychiatry for children and adults in rural Iowa. We have enormous banks and pharmaceuticals and lots of others. So if you want to find out more about what we do, then come and talk to us or go to our website and find out. Now, are you really going to love your meetings? I do love that line in one of those demotivational posters. It says, do remember, none of us are as stupid as all of us together. And I think that that is ultimately the point in a meeting. But I, for one, want to have human connections with the people that I'm interacting with, and I'm sick of going everywhere. So, at the end of the day, don't trust me, I'm a professional. Life Size pays me to say these things. No, they do, really. I know it may shock you, but it's true. But seriously, come and talk to us at the booth. We can show you what our technology does. It does change the game. We're excited about what this technology can do for people. And at that note, I'm going to end because I'm getting poached off. So thank you very much for your time, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam. That was great. If you ever leave Life Size, you got a career as a stand-up comic. He is good.